Hey guys, tonight we wake up in a medieval village. No phones, no plumbing, no idea where you are. It's still dark outside, and your bed appears to be a thin blanket on a pile of straw that smells like a sheep coughed on it. Your back aches, your fingers are numb, and something is scuttling around just out of view. Probably a rat, maybe not just one. You blink, and the world comes into strange focus. Wooden beams overhead soot-streaked. A small window lets in a dull gray pre-dawn light through an oiled parchment pane. The room is barely bigger than a closet, and you're not alone. Two figures snore softly in a heap across the room. One of them rolls over and coughs. You flinch. It smells like old onions, wool grease, and someone's unwashed feet. And cabbage. Always cabbage. There's a creaky door. You open it slowly, hoping not to wake anyone or anything. A cold breeze smacks you in the face. Welcome to the 14th century. You step out into a world made of mud smoke and moody livestock. Now before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step barefoot into a muddy lane that snakes through the center of the village. Chickens scatter. Somewhere a cow moos with the volume of a tired opera singer. A rooster tries to crow, but sounds like it smoked a pipe. You look down. Your feet are already filthy. The concept of shoes appears optional here. Most folks seem to favor wooden clogs or just calluses with personality. A young boy runs past you barefoot, carrying a pail and yelling about someone stealing the eggs again. He looks about 8, but his voice already has the grit of someone who's lived 3 wars. He smells like fireplace ash and something worse. You follow him out of confusion or survival instinct. You're still not sure which. This is a medieval village, maybe around the year 1350. The plague hasn't hit yet, or maybe it just left. Hard to tell. People here don't smile much, but they do stare a lot, especially at you. You try to smile. A toothless woman squints and mutters something about witch-born strangers. It's not personal. Everyone is suspicious of everything. Historians still argue whether these communities were tight-knit, out of love, or just deep-seated paranoia. Probably both. You pass what might generously be called a well. It's a big stone ring with a wooden cover, and something oily floats in the bucket. You're thirsty, but not that thirsty. A goat bleats at you from atop a crumbling fence. You don't think goats are supposed to climb fences, but this one has seen things. It watches you, like it knows you're not from here. Creepy. There's a nearby barn, wooden low-roofed and sagging at the sides like a drunk uncle. Inside you see tools. Pitchforks, sickles, wooden yokes. Most are either broken or handmade, or both. You pick up a piece of something that might be a rake. It falls apart in your hands. Out of nowhere, a woman with a stained apron appears and thrusts a loaf of bread toward you. It's hard, like weaponized. You nod politely. She says something in what you can only guess is Middle English. You nod again, clutching the carved brick like it's an award. And here's your first mainstream historical fact. People in medieval Europe didn't eat white bread unless they were wealthy. The peasants got dark, coarse rye or barley bread full of grit, often baked with ash or flour scraped from millstones. Tasty. Your stomach growls. You try to eat the bread, but it nearly chips your tooth. A nearby dog eyes you. You offer it the bread. The dog sniffs, sneezes, and walks away. That says it all. You walk past homes made of wattle and daub wooden frames, filled with a sticky combo of mud straw and animal dung. Walls breathe, literally. The smell, it's a character. Suddenly, bells ring from somewhere uphill, a small wooden structure with a crooked spire and an iron bell. It clangs like a kitchen pot. People start shuffling out of homes and shacks, moving toward a clearing. A cluster of them glance your way, muttering. One elderly man eyes your clothes and makes a warding sign with his fingers. Another laughs and says something about fairy changelings. You're starting to feel like the village oddity, probably because you are. And here's your quirky tidbit. In some villages, folks believed sudden strangers were fairies in disguise, or time travelers cursed by saints. There's even a record from Norfolk of someone being accused of sorcery just for wearing mismatched hose. You think about hiding, but someone grabs your arm. It's a kid again, maybe the same one from earlier. Come on, he muttered. The reeve will be counting heads soon. You have no idea what a reeve is, but you follow. There's no real choice. In this place, standing still means suspicion. And suspicion gets you dunked in ponds, or worse. You reach the clearing. People gather, men and women in tunics and aprons and fur-trimmed hats. No one looks warm. No one looks clean. No one looks especially surprised that life is hard. But they're here, living it. You're part of the count now. One more body in the mud. Welcome to the village. You've survived your first morning. The cold air hits harder now that the sun is dragging itself above the horizon. You can't see the sun directly, too many low clouds and chimney plumes, but the light shifts from a grim gray to something you might call beige, if you were being generous. It's the kind of morning that feels like it hasn't made up its mind whether it's worth trying. Someone hands you a small wooden bowl. Inside, something vaguely oatmeal adjacent. It's beige, watery, and steaming, but not in a comforting way. It smells faintly of grass clippings and burnt sugar. You sniff it. You regret that. Still, your stomach overrules your taste buds, and you slurp it down. Someone nearby chuckles. You'll get used to the barley mash, he says, chewing with missing molars. Or it'll get used to you. Barley was a peasant staple boiled into porridge, sometimes left to ferment. Bread was saved for later in the day, if there was any. Most people here eat what's cheapest, easiest, and impossible to ruin, because food is survival, not cuisine. Then someone hands you a wooden cup. You assume it's water? It's not. It's ale, weak, flat, and lukewarm. Children drink this too. Why? Because the water isn't always safe. Boiling it is a pain. And ale is less likely to give you medieval dysentery. Cheers. You glance around. People are gathered in the common yard, a muddy clearing littered with wood chips, feathers, and the occasional chicken foot. Everyone seems to know what they're doing, except you. Someone is already butchering a pig off to the side, humming like it's a Sunday chore. You avert your eyes, but the sound of sloshing and the distinctive thwack of cleaver hitting bone stays with you. Near the center, the reeve. The local village official counts heads and mumbles names. Elfric. Sign us with Osbert. New one. He pauses at you, squints, then moves on. You're now officially new one. Great. A boy tugs your sleeve and nods toward a trough. You follow. He's cleaning his hands with hay and ash. You mimic him, though. It feels like the opposite of clean. Historians still argue whether medieval people understood hygiene or just hated being wet. The truth? Somewhere in between. A rooster crows again late. Everyone ignores it. You look at the village around you. Houses lean like drunk friends. Smoke curls from crooked chimneys. Laundry hangs on lines that droop across alleyways. The air smells like peat smoke compost and whatever died last week. Probably a rat, hopefully just one. Children run barefoot, shrieking with glee, even though it's freezing. One is chasing a goose. The goose looks genuinely furious. You step out of the way as it hisses and lunges. Goose bites hurt. You learn that firsthand. One of the women, broad-shouldered, brisk, walks past, carrying a basket of something green and spiky. You think it might be leeks. She mutters something about boiling them in goat broth. You're not invited, but you note the location just in case dinner becomes a scavenger hunt later. A man sits nearby, sharpening a knife against a stone slab. The knife is rusted but well used. He doesn't look up. He just says, "Don't wander near the woods. Wolves again." You nod, unsure whether he's warning you or testing you. The woods loom on the edge of the village, dark and full of secrets. You notice children aren't allowed near them unless accompanied. And even then, adults carry tools or sticks. Quirky tidbit time. In some villages, parents told children the forest spirits would steal their names if they strayed too far. Not their bodies, just their names. No one knew what happened next. You begin to notice roles taking shape. Some folks vanish into the fields with hoes and baskets. Others head towards sheds filled with tools. One group starts gathering dung. You try not to make eye contact with them, but they're enthusiastic. Dung was fuel fertilizer and an unfortunate reality of rural life. A man with wispy hair and patchy beard walks towards you. "You look healthy," he says. "You can help with the sheep." That doesn't feel like a compliment, but you nod anyway. Before you're taken away, you pass by a group spinning wool. Women sit with drop spindles, twisting fibers with mechanical precision. The sound of whirring and soft muttering fills the space. One of them makes eye contact, then says, Don't let the ram headbutt you. You don't know what that means until 10 minutes later when you do, in fact, get headbutted by the village ram. He's small but powerful, and your pride takes more damage than your shins. You spend the next hour stumbling after woolly blurs, trying not to step in anything too tragic. Sheep have no respect for personal space or dignity. The boy from earlier helps occasionally, yelling, "Not that one," right after you've done something wrong. He's 8. He knows more than you. He smells worse, but you're catching up. Then the bells ring again, this time softer. It's mid-morning, break time. You're handed a hunk of bread. It's slightly less brick-like than before. You accept it like a trophy. Your fingers are numb, your shoes non-existent, and your hands smell like lanolin and regret. And yet, weirdly, you're kind of getting the hang of this. As you gnaw on the bread, leaning against a splintery fence, someone beside you, an older man with weathered hands, says, "You'll sleep well tonight," he chuckles. Or not at all, depending on the fleas. You laugh politely, then you stop. Fleas? Yes. Medieval villages were crawling with fleas, lice, and the occasional bed bug. Personal space wasn't a concept, and most people bathed maybe once a season. Maybe, but there's also something comforting here. A rhythm, a rough kind of order. People working, grumbling, laughing, shoving, surviving. The village exhales in sync. You take another bite of bread. It still tastes like disappointment, but now it's your disappointment. You're chewing that dense wedge of barley bread like it owes you rent, when a bell clangs again this time, with more urgency, a kind of stop-loafing tone, and suddenly everyone starts moving. Not panicked, just brisk, focused. You've been here, a couple hours, and already the village is shifting into its next gear. Someone nudges your elbow with a pitchfork, not aggressively, but not gently either. Time to earn your place, stranger. It's the same elderly Reeve from earlier, his beard like frayed rope and eyes sharp as fishhooks. He doesn't wait for you to answer. He just points toward a group of villagers heading down the main path. You follow, of course. The village has no paved roads, just mud paths churned by wheels, boots, hooves, and the occasional goose battle. You're walking past chickens' laundry lines, bundles of firewood, and yep, someone emptying what might be a chamber pot straight into a trench. You give that one a wide berth. Just because it's historical doesn't mean it's not gross. You trail the group through the village's center, where things are already in full swing. Women scrub clothes in wooden tubs, their sleeves rolled up, knuckles red from cold water and harsh soap. A cluster of boys practice archery with crooked sticks and suspiciously sharp arrows. One narrowly misses a pig. You're just starting to feel like you're blending in when you step straight into a cold puddle the size of a helmet. It soaks your foot up to the ankle. The sound you make is not historically accurate. New one's been baptized, someone jokes. You try to laugh, but your toes are now part of a medieval ecosystem. Someone hands you a rough wool sock. You don't ask where it came from. You just put it on. It's still warm. Again, you don't ask. By now, you're starting to see how the rhythms work. The village moves like clockwork. But a clock made of goat's smoke and people who don't believe in naps. The blacksmith hammers iron into plow points. A woman gathers herbs by the well, muttering something that may or may not be a recipe. A toddler toddles past you with a turnip the size of his head. And here's your mainstream historical fact. Most medieval villages functioned around communal labor and seasonal routines. The day was divided by bells, not clocks, and most people worked from sunrise to sunset. It wasn't all suffering. There was laughter, song, flirtation. But rest was something you earned. You're pulled toward a cluster of people gathering near a large cart. The Reeve is there again. Market day, he says, gesturing for you to help load baskets. You obey. The baskets are filled with root vegetables, dried fish cheese wrapped in cloth, and small sacks of grain. One old man is carrying a live goose under one arm. It looks mad, probably related to the one that bit you earlier. You join the caravan, heading toward the market square a few muddy yards away, but bustling like it's the capital. Stalls made of scrap wood and fabric flap in the breeze. The smells are layered. Bread, tallow, garlic, sweat, wet wool, something burnt, something dead, and possibly a hint of lavender if you squint your nose. Vendors shout about turnips and salt and fine Flemish wool, though it clearly isn't. Children dart between legs, hands reaching into pockets with a sleight of hand that transcends centuries. You're told to watch the cart while the others barter. This feels like a test, or a punishment. Maybe both. You stand guard trying to look useful. And that's when you see her, a woman in a hooded cloak, face shadowed but eyes sharper. She approaches slowly, gaze flicking between baskets. "How much for this cheese?" she asks in perfect English. You stammer. It's not mine." She narrows her eyes. "Where are you from, stranger?" Before you can answer, she vanishes into the crowd. You're left holding the cheese like it's evidence. Someone pats your shoulder. "Don't let the bailiff catch you standing like that. He'll think you're skiving." The bailiff, another layer of authority in this layered society. The bailiff is responsible for keeping peace, collecting taxes, and judging petty crimes like being suspicious or looking too well fed. You scan the crowd for him, and sure enough, tall, hunched, wearing a leather tabard with iron studs. He looks exactly like someone who would fine you for smiling too wide. A woman approaches your cart, asks the price of onions, and haggles you down by insulting your haircut. You didn't know you had a haircut, but you agree with her assessment. Another fact, by the way, money here is rare. Most transactions are barter-based. Chickens for eggs. Olive for cloth. A woven basket might be worth more than a copper coin, depending on who you know and how desperate they are. You trade some grain for a small lump of beeswax. Why? No idea. Everyone else is doing it. It's possibly the most historically accurate thing you've done so far. Then comes the tax collector. He doesn't smile. No one ever smiles at the tax collector. He has a small sack for coins, a long list, and a short temper. You hold your breath. But since you have no name, no family, and no listed cottage, he skips you for now. Lucky. You're a quirky tidbit. In some villages, taxes were paid in eels. Yes, slippery, squirming eels. Thousands of them. Monks and nobles prized them, and peasants hated catching them, but it beat handing over your last loaf of bread. Eventually, your group returns. The reeve nods at the full cart. Fewer goods, more coins. You did well. You didn't run off. You're not sure if that's praise or suspicion. You walk back toward the village. Your legs ache, your arms are sore, and you might be sunburned. But it's barely noon. A cartwheel breaks. Everyone sighs. No one panics. A boy fetches a rope. Two men lift the cart, and you're handed a rock to wedge under it. You do it. You feel strangely proud. This isn't a job, it's a world. You're not just surviving. You're part of it now. You don't get a vote. One moment, you're quietly enjoying the illusion of belonging. Grime on your hands, ache in your shoulders, dirt under your nails, like a badge of survival. And the next, someone shoves a pitchfork into your hands, like it's a birthday present. Off to the sty, the reeve says, pointing behind a barn with his chin. Muck's piling up. You try to speak, maybe to clarify, maybe to plead for something less pungent, but he's already turned his back, and everyone else seems to accept that this is your job now. Your rank in the village social hierarchy is somewhere between stray dog and that one goat that bites. You trudge behind the barn. The sty announces itself before you even see it, waves of stench hitting you like hot breath. Pigs are snorting, wallowing in muck, so thick it could probably be registered as a new form of matter. The wooden fencing is warped and chewed. The pigs are suspiciously intelligent looking. You grip the pitchfork. It's heavier than you expect, and the handle is worn smooth from 100 other tired hands. You plunge it into the muck lift and immediately regret all your life choices. What you're forking is not just mud. It's a cocktail of straw pig droppings, yesterday's slop, and a texture that should not exist. You gag quietly, trying to maintain a shred of dignity. One of the pigs snorts, almost mockingly. Here's a lovely historical fact for you. Pig manure was both a curse and a commodity. It was used to fertilize crops, but it also had to be constantly cleared, or it would literally poison the air. Entire families took shifts mucking out sties, and you just joined the rotation. By the time your third forkful splats into the compost pile, you've accepted your fate. It's oddly rhythmic work. Heave, scoop, gag a little. Repeat. You even start humming. Something mournful. Then a voice. You're doing it wrong. You turn. A girl, maybe 12, is watching you from behind the fence, arms folded. She's wearing a tunic 2 sizes too big, and a smirk that could cut glass. You're tossing it too close to the wind. She's right. A gust hits, and you're instantly wearing eau de pige. Great. She shrugs and walks off. You'll learn, or you'll die. Either way, you won't smell worse than you do now. The pigs seem delighted. You take a break against the barn wall, sweat trickling down your spine. A rooster hops onto the fence and eyes you like a bouncer judging your outfit. You flick some straw at him. He doesn't move. From your perch, you watch the rest of the village. 2 men are repairing a thatch roof. One is swearing in words you recognize only as verbs. A group of women are weaving baskets in the shade, chatting about someone who apparently soured the ale again. You don't know who it was, but they sound legendary. And then behind you, a sudden splat. A pig. No, the pig has headbutted the pitchfork straight out of your hands. It grunts once satisfied and trots away like a villain in a children's cartoon. You retrieve the tool warily. The girl's voice calls from somewhere you can't see. Told you about that one. He doesn't like new people. Medieval village life. A constant game of what will attack me next. But there's a strange comfort in this simplicity. No emails, no meetings. Just animals trying to assert dominance. And humans pretending they're not cold. Someone brings you a wooden bucket of well water. It's cloudy but cold. You drink gratefully, then pour some over your hands and face. The sensation is bracing, like slapping yourself awake. Someone else sees you and says wasteful. That's 2 days worth of rinsing. You mumble an apology. They roll their eyes and hand you a cabbage. You think it's a punishment. Turns out it's lunch. Here comes your quirky tidbit. In lean seasons, villagers often ate boiled cabbage with barley, day after day. They called it pottage. If you were lucky, there was meat. If not, they added weeds for variety. Stinging nettles, actually, because why not add danger to dinner? You chew your cabbage. It's raw. It's crunchy. It's not poison. That's a win. Afternoon falls, slowly dragging its muddy feet. You're reassigned to firewood detail. This means hauling armloads of wet timber from the edge of the forest to the village's central pile. The older men do the chopping. You do the fetching. While walking one of these loads back, you overhear a heated argument between 2 women. One claims the other stole her best egg hen. The accused denies everything, while her own hens cluck very suspiciously in the background. The reeve settles the matter by declaring the hen must be shared for stew. No one is happy, but no one objects either. Justice apparently is what gets everyone fed. Historians still argue whether medieval justice was more about maintaining order than uncovering truth. It wasn't about fairness. It was about keeping the peace long enough for the crops to grow. You sit for a moment beneath a tree, the firewood stacked at your side. The breeze carries smoke, livestock, and somewhere faint lavender. Someone's garden, maybe, or a pocket of mercy in this heavy world. A boy sits beside you, quiet for a moment, then asks, "Do you miss where you came from?" You don't answer, you just nod. He doesn't ask where there is. He just shrugs. It's better if you stop. The sky is turning orange. Long shadows stretch across the yard. Someone calls for you. It's the girl again. They need help lifting the thatch rolls. You're tall and expendable. You stand, shoulders sore, hands raw, stomach quietly rumbling. But you go because this is what villagers do. They show up, muck-stained and sunburnt and possibly full of stinging nettle, but they show up. You're finally starting to smell like the village. It's not a compliment. Between pigsty duty firewood hauling and the cabbage incident, your personal fragrance could qualify as a medieval defense mechanism. As you trudge back toward the central path, the wind shifts, and you don't want to say it out loud, but you can't tell if the scent is you or just the air. Then again, no one else here seems to be faring better. The collective odor of the village is more of a shared experience, a bonding agent, if you will. You're ushered toward the market square again, this time without a cart. Your task is to watch, learn, and not touch anything valuable. That last part seems emphasized. You nod, trying to look trustworthy, while silently wondering what counts as valuable in a place where a dry cabbage is currency. This version of the market is louder than before, more chaotic. New faces, unfamiliar accents. A pair of tinkers have arrived, unloading their wares with great flair. One flips a knife into the air, while the other sings something wildly off-key. People are gathered in tight clusters, gossiping, bartering, shouting, occasionally laughing. You're drawn to a small table covered in hand-forged trinkets, nails, belt buckles, horseshoe nails. basically a blacksmith's rummage drawer. A boy beside you eyes a copper ring with such longing that you instinctively glance around for a grown-up. None in sight. You lean over to speak to the merchant, but he eyes your muddy tunic and gestures toward a basket marked "Trades Only." No coin, no conversation. Welcome to the fine art of medieval negotiation. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Coins existed, but most rural transactions were based on barter. Currency, if it circulated at all, was hoarded, taxed, or used for church offerings. The average villager traded what they had. Eggs, ale, wool, sometimes even labor to get what they needed. Your turn to trade comes when a man with a lazy eye points at your hands and says, "You can read, can't you?" You blink. Not really. He grins. "Better than me. Hold this." He thrusts a wooden sign into your arms, freshly carved, barely legible. It advertises fine flax cloth, spelled phonetically and proudly. He's trying to attract attention to his stall, but can't read the message himself. You raise the sign. He nods approvingly. "Stand there. Look smart. I'll give you an onion. It's not a joke. That's the payment. 1 onion. You hold the sign anyway. Because honestly, you could use an onion right now." Across the square, a scuffle breaks out. 2 boys shove each other, yelling over the ownership of a small wooden spoon. A woman intervenes, brandishing a broom like a sword. Peace is restored when one of the boys is bribed with a dried apple. The spoon remains unclaimed. Quirky tidbit time. In some regions, wooden spoons were personal possessions. People carried them to feasts or church events. Losing one could be more than inconvenient. It was socially awkward, like showing up to a dinner party without pants. You move your sign slightly higher. A dog pees on your shoe. No one notices. Eventually, the flax seller waves you over. "Fair enough," he says, handing you the promised onion. You thank him, unsure what social protocol follows onion acceptance. Is this friendship? Debt? Marriage? You walk away quickly, just in case. You wander past a stall covered in animal pelts. The trader offers you a wolfskin fit for a lord. It smells like wet dog and mothballs. You smile, decline, and step back just in time to avoid a bucket of fish guts being flung into the gutter. You're getting faster. The reeve is nearby, speaking sternly with a man holding a pouch of coins. The words tithing and short drift your way. You pretend not to listen. Taxes are collected based on land, livestock, or income. And income here is a very fluid concept. Sometimes taxes are paid in kind, eggs, grain, or yes, eels. Always eels. Historians still argue whether these market taxes strengthen communities or just enriched landlords. One thing's clear, no one likes paying them, but everyone does or vanishes mysteriously from the records. You pass a scribe seated under a canopy, hunched over a wax tablet. He's writing someone's will. The man dictating it can't read, of course, but he looks relieved when the scribe nods and seals the message with a blob of red wax and a bit of twine. You lean closer to watch, fascinated by the symbols scratched into the page. You don't recognize any of them, but you understand the gravity. Every mark means something. A wish, a warning, a last breath. There's a sense of ritual here. The market isn't just commerce, it's the village's heartbeat. Births announced trade struck. Fights started, alliances forged. If someone disappears from the market, people notice. And here comes someone worth noticing. A tall woman steps into view, dressed better than anyone here. Not richly but clean. Her apron is unsoiled. Her shoes have actual laces. Her hair is braided in a way that says, "I've met nobility." She doesn't speak, just walks through the crowd like she owns it. Which in a way she probably does. She's the Reeves' cousin, someone whispers. Married a steward up near the manor. Comes to collect gossip and beans. Beans, it turns out, are a form of soft currency. You watch her drop a handful of them into a basket of herbs and receive a length of dyed thread in return. You decide not to talk to her. Not today. You're barely qualified to be holding a turnip, let alone networking. A goat wanders past with half a scarf in its mouth. No one stops it. You don't either. You're about to head back when someone calls out to you. "Oh, new one. That bread you helped trade." There's a heel left. A slice of barley bread is tossed your way. It lands in the dirt. You pick it up anyway. Brush it off and take a bite. Still tastes like ash and humility. But you're not hungry anymore. You're not entirely sure how it happened. One moment, you're chewing the world's most stubborn piece of barley bread. And the next, you're part of a procession walking up a winding hill toward the edge of the village, dragging a small basket of eggs behind you, like some sort of peasant initiation rite. You weren't exactly asked to go. You were just included. Someone said, "You're coming too," and now you're here clutching a rickety offering of questionable eggs in a basket that looks like it was woven by someone blindfolded. Ahead looms a manor house, not a castle, not exactly grand, but compared to the village, it might as well be Versailles. 2 stories, timber framed with a slate roof that doesn't leak luxury real glass in the windows. Almost suspicious, and a door that doesn't sag like it's trying to escape itself. The closer you get, the quieter everyone becomes. Voices drop, eyes lower. You feel your posture straighten involuntarily, like your spine knows better than to slouch in the presence of power. This is where the local lord lives, or more accurately, where he stores the illusion of feudal control. He probably owns the land. Maybe owns you technically. That's how the system worked. Land in exchange for loyalty protection, in exchange for everything you've got. Mainstream historical fact. The majority of people in rural medieval England were serfs, not slaves, but not free either. They couldn't leave without permission, owed part of their crops or labor to the lord, and were bound to the land like reluctant wallpaper. Someone beside you whispers, "Don't look him in the eye unless he asks." You nod. Another asks, and don't speak first, unless it's "Yes, my lord," or begging your pardon, or "Please don't take the cow again." You reach the door. A servant cleaner than you by several lifetimes opens it just enough to peer out, scowls slightly, then lets the group pass. The air inside is warmer, drier, and smells faintly of beeswax, roasted meat, and books, actual books. You're led to a side chamber, flagstone floors, tapestry-covered walls, a table that could seat 10 people who have opinions about Latin. At the far end sits a man in his late 40s, with the look of someone who has never carried anything heavier than a quill. His tunic is velvet. His hat has a feather. He holds a goblet like it's part of his hand. This is the Lord. You know it instinctively, because everyone around you turns into statues. He says nothing for a moment, just stares. Not hostile, just cataloging you like livestock. You try to stand up straighter without looking like you're trying. Then he speaks, and his voice is surprisingly soft. "Eggs?" The reeve nods. 3 dozen, my lord. "And a wheel of hard cheese from Widow Nesta." The lord gestures lazily. "Set it by the fire. We'll inspect it later." You step forward and place the egg basket where others are doing the same. It creaks. 1 egg wobbles. You pray to all relevant saints that it doesn't crack. It doesn't. Small victory. The Lord Steward, a man with a nose like a hawk's beak, records everything. He squints at you, writes new face in a tiny ledger, then frowns as if your existence personally inconveniences him. And here's your quirky tidbit. In many manorial records, people were listed not by name, but by status or a single physical detail. The short one: widow with moles, stranger with bad boots. Your probably now smells like turnip and regret. You try not to fidget. It's not easy. The room is both colder and more intimidating than it needs to be. You glance at the tapestry on the wall, depicts a hunting scene where the animals look slightly more intelligent than the hunters. You stifle a snort. Do you speak? The Lord suddenly asks. You panic. Then say, "Yes, my lord." He nods once, as if you passed a test that you didn't study for. Where are you from? 1,000 wrong answers swirl in your head. You settle on Baru. There's a pause. He smiles faintly. Aren't we all? Then he turns his attention elsewhere. You're dismissed. Just like that. The reeve nudges you out with the others. Outside, the sun is angling lower in the sky. Shadows stretch long. You exhale for what feels like the first time in 10 minutes. That could have gone worse, someone says behind you. No one cried this time. You walk back toward the village with the others. The path seems longer on the return, though maybe it's just the weight of having stepped inside a different world, one with tapestries and goblets and sharp-eyed stewards who write your existence into ledgers like a curse. Historians still debate how aware villagers were of their place in the broader system. Some argue they saw lords as divine right guardians. Others say they were tolerated like bad weather, constant, annoying, and likely to take your best cow during a feast week. As the manor disappears behind you, You glance at the basket, now empty in your hands. It smells faintly of straw and egg yolk. One of the other villagers, an older woman with a bent back and a surprisingly elegant accent, says, "Well, now he knows you." You don't know if that's good or bad. You do know you're hungry again. Luckily, the village feast is next. By the time you get back to the village, the sky is beginning to blush a soft amber that turns the smoke curling from chimneys into something almost poetic. Almost. The truth is, it still smells like boiled cabbage and damp wool. But there's something festive in the air tonight. You feel it in the way people are moving, faster with more purpose, less trudging, more hopeful shuffling. It's feast night, someone says, nudging you with a grin that's mostly gums. You're lucky. You're not sure lucky is the right word. So far, your day has included farmyard combat, unexpected tax proximity, and an onion-based economy. But if there's one constant in any century, it's this. A free meal changes everything. You're led toward the largest structure in the village, a long, low building that smells like smoke, sweat, and wet dog. It's part hall, part barn, part church basement, potluck with fewer safeties. The doorway is framed by a horseshoe nailed crookedly above the lintel. A charm, someone says, against bad luck or rats. Maybe both. Inside, benches line long planks set up as makeshift tables. A central fire pit crackles with spitting wood and blackened cauldrons. Smoke hugs the ceiling before lazily curling out through a hole in the roof. The walls sweat with heat. The floor straw is freshly strewn, and the atmosphere is, dare you think it, actually cozy. You're handed a bowl. It's wooden uneven and already slightly sticky. You don't ask. You just wait your turn near the bubbling pot. One of the older women, elbows like twigs, voice like gravel ladles something thick and beige into your bowl. Barley stew, she says, as if announcing treasure, with leeks, and meat if you're lucky. You look, you squint, you find a speck. It might be meat. You consider naming it. Everyone gets one chunk. That's the rule. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Peasant diets were mostly vegetarian, out of necessity, not choice. Meat was rare. Often it came from offcuts, old animals, or the occasional squirrel. Barley, leeks, turnips, and onions were the staples. Flavor came from garlic, wild herbs, and hope. You take your bowl and sit near the fire. The stew is hot, vaguely salty, and deeply satisfying in a this-won't-kill-me kind of way. A woman beside you offers a hunk of bread the size of your fist. It's dark, dense, and dotted with seeds that crack like gravel between your teeth. You eat it anyway. Someone starts playing music, if you can call it that. It's a sheep's bladder inflated into a crude bagpipe paired with a bone flute that sounds like a duck panicking. You pretend to enjoy it. Everyone else is clapping. Then the dancing starts. It's not elegant. It's not even coordinated, but it is joyous. People stamp, clap, and spin in time with a rhythm that seems to exist mostly in their heads. Children shriek. Old men stumble cheerfully, and one dog joins in with surprising grace. You're pulled into a dance by a girl no older than 14 who grins like she's just pickpocketed you. She twirls, once then vanishes back into the crowd, leaving you dizzy and more winded than you'd like to admit. You retreat toward the fire. A man hands you a cup of ale. It's flat, lukewarm, and delicious because it's not cabbage. Quirky tidbit time. Villagers sometimes flavored ale with odd things, dandelion nettle, even tree bark. One surviving recipe included crushed crab claws. Whether it worked or was just a prank is still generously a mystery. You sip, no claws detected, probably. Around the fire stories begin. One woman claims she saw a two-headed calf, born under a blood moon. A man swears he heard voices in the well. Someone insists their cousin spoke with St. Cuthbert in a dream and was told to avoid apples. You nod solemnly. It's not the night to question dreams or saints or apples. Then comes the healer. She's old. So old that you're pretty sure she predates the roof above her. Her fingers are stained from herbs, her hair like smoke. She carries a pouch of dried things, flowers, roots, and possibly bones. She sits beside you without invitation and starts digging through the pouch. You're not from here, she says softly. Not really. You freeze. I see it in your eyes. She continues. You look like someone who's seen too much and nothing at all. You don't answer. She pulls out a small bundle wrapped in cloth tied with twine. Inside, a mix of crushed leaves and something that might be beetle shells. Steep this in hot water, she says. It'll help you sleep, or help you dream. Maybe both. You accept it. She stands. Careful with your dreams, stranger. This world listens. And then she's gone vanishing into the shadows, like a character from a play you didn't audition for. You stare at the bundle. It smells like mint dirt and rain on stone. You tuck it into your tunic. Across the fire, a group sings something wordless but harmonic. The tune is old, older than the buildings, older than anyone alive. A lullaby for the land, a prayer against the dark. Historians still debate whether peasant communities leaned more on faith or folklore. But the truth is they didn't separate the two. Saints and spirits lived in the same breath. Fear and hope wore the same face. Someone refills your ale. Someone else claps you on the back. The night rolls forward in laughter music and flickering light. For a few hours, no one is cold, no one is hungry, and no one is a stranger, not even you. By the time the fire burns low and the last of the barley stew has congealed into something that could be used to patch walls, the crowd begins to fade. Slowly, reluctantly, as though the village knows joy doesn't come often, and letting go of it too soon might curse tomorrow. You follow the others out into the cool night. Stomach warm, head just a touch fuzzy from the weak ale. Stars blink overhead in a sky so black it looks painted. There are no street lamps, no headlights, just the moonlight silvering every edge and turning even cow dung into something almost poetic. Almost. You step around it just in case. As the crowd drifts back to their homes, you hear low voices, soft, musical. A group of villagers has gathered near the chapel, humming a tune that seems to belong to the stones themselves. You linger a moment, hand drifting to your tunic pocket where the old healer's herb bundle still rests. It smells faintly of mint and mystery, but you're tugged away again this time by a small boy with wild hair and a wild grin. Come see what's left of the fair, he says like it's the most obvious thing in the world. You follow because you're curious, and also because no one refuses a child in this century. They're too good at guilt tripping. He leads you through a side path behind the longhouse where torches flicker against makeshift stalls. The fair, if you can call it that, is more scavenged than spectacular. A few vendors remain half-packing their wares. Feathers, dyed wool, cheap trinkets carved from wood or bone. One man offers you a frog carved from what might be bread. You decline. Another woman, wide-shouldered and missing an eyebrow, sells little cloth dolls. She grins and says, "For the spirits," or the rats. Depends who you feed it to. You laugh nervously and keep walking. Then someone starts juggling, badly. It's a teen boy with a crooked tooth and absolute confidence. He drops the pins twice, once on someone's toe, then takes a theatrical bow. People clap. A chicken clucks in approval or protest. It's hard to say. Here's your mainstream historical fact. While most medieval villages weren't known for carnivals, feast days and traveling fairs did exist, especially around saint days or harvest time. These were your best shot at entertainment that didn't involve someone falling into a ditch. The fair is dwindling now. You turn to head back when a young woman in a frayed green cloak stops you. You haven't danced the ghost step yet. She says serious as judgment. You blink. What? She takes your hand and pulls you toward a small circle where others are stomping in odd, slow patterns around a torch. Left for the living, right for the lost, she whispers. So they know we remember. It's oddly moving. Even if you have no idea what's going on. Quirky tidbit time. Fringe records suggest that in certain remote villages, dances were used not just for fun, but for guiding spirits. Part mourning, part superstition, part choreography. Think of it as line dancing meets exorcism. You move with the others. Slowly, awkwardly, but sincerely. And something about it feels real. Then someone stumbles into the circle drunk or just overly zealous and knocks over a torch. The flame hisses in the damp earth and laughter erupts like a spell broken. People begin to disperse, but not in panic, in relief, as though they've paid their respects, danced their worries away, and now it's safe to go home. You wander back toward your straw pile when you hear a voice call out from the chapel's shadow. You dream too loudly, stranger. You stop, but no one's there, just the chapel stone, mossy quiet. Its door creaks slightly in the breeze. You step closer. Inside, it's cold, dark, except for a few guttering candles and the silhouette of the priest cloaked in silence. He doesn't turn, just speaks. You've walked paths not meant for your feet, but you've done no harm. Yet, you don't respond. Not sure if you're meant to. He finally turns. His face is unreadable, worn, like old bark, eyes sharp. If you remember this place, he says, light a candle for it someday. Places die when no one remembers them. He hands you a stub of wax. It's warm from his hand. You nod and back away. Historians still argue whether rural clergy were community anchors or just extensions of feudal control. But here tonight, this priest feels like a witness, not of sin, of stories. You walk out into the cold again. The fair's gone. The feast is over. The fire's down to cinders. You lie down in your corner of the barn, wrapping yourself in the scratchy wool blanket you now proudly call mine. Your skin smells like stew ash and faintly of herbs. You don't mind. The moon slips past the window hole. Somewhere a goat coughs, a baby wails. Someone starts snoring like they're chopping down a tree with their nose. And still you smile, because this world strange and muddy and full of ghosts has made space for you, at least for now. The sun's barely risen when the bell rings again. Its clang hollow and metallic. The village's version of a group text, if everyone's phone was a goat. You groan. You ache. Every part of you is either stiff-scratched or mysteriously damp. The wool blanket stuck to your leg, like it's developed an emotional attachment. You peel it away and sit up blinking at the dim light filtering through the barn slats. But today's rhythm feels different. Instead of heading toward the fields or sty, people move toward the church. Not hurried, not quite reverent either. More resigned. You follow because no one gives you permission not to. And that's sort of the rule around here. The chapel looks different in the morning light. Less eerie, more worn. Moss climbs the corners, and the old wooden door groans as it swings open like it too resents early mornings. Inside, cold stone, a faint scent of tallow candles, and rows of rough wooden benches. No gold, no stained glass, just shadows and silence. You find a spot near the back, trying to look appropriately solemn. The villagers file in and sit heads bowed. A baby hiccups. A man coughs like he's trying to evict a demon through sheer lung force. Then the priest enters. He moves slowly, with the sort of authority that's half routine, half resignation. His robes are patched, his beard wild, but his eyes sharp. He raises one hand and begins the sermon. It's in Latin. You understand none of it, and you're not alone. Most of the villagers can't read or speak the language. But that's not the point. The point is rhythm, familiarity, the comfort of syllables worn into the soul like a favorite shirt. Mainstream historical fact. Medieval services were conducted entirely in Latin, even though most people didn't understand a word. It was less about understanding more, about participating in something eternal, something bigger than themselves. But you do catch the name Augustine, and penitent, and fire. Never a chill combination. After the sermon, the priest shifts to the local dialect. You catch more this time. Warnings about pride, murmurs about a wolf seen near the fields, and a gentle reminder that it's St. Ethelthryth's feast day soon. So no swearing until then. You make a mental note, then come confessions. Villagers line up to murmur their sins to the priest in a curtained alcove that looks like it's held together with hope and twine. You stay seated, mostly because you're not sure what to confess. I don't belong in this century seems like a lot. While you wait, your eyes wander. The altar is simple wood, cloth, one unsteady candle. But behind it, embedded into the wall, is something unexpected. A weathered carving of a woman holding a chalice flanked by ravens. It's not labeled, no plaque. Just there. You nudge the old man beside you. Who's that? He squints. Some say it's St. Hilda. Others say she was a queen who healed with blood, or a witch. Depends who you ask. Quirky tidbit. Medieval churches often included relics, local legends, or pre-Christian symbols absorbed into Christian lore. No one kept consistent records. Sometimes a saint was just a woman who owned a lot of goats and didn't die of plague. After the service, people gather outside, shaking off the solemnity like rain. A few kneel near the graveyard fence, murmuring to stone markers that lean at awkward angles. You wander toward the priest who stands watching the fields like he's waiting for something or someone. "Did you dream?" he asks suddenly. You blink. "What?" "Last night, you smelled of her herbs. I assumed she gave you the tea." You nod slowly. "And," he presses, "I dreamed of dancing, of fire, and a voice saying I didn't belong." He smiles, but not kindly. "Then you dreamed the truth." You ask who she is, the healer. He shrugs. "She's what the village needs, when it needs her." You try to press more, but he walks away, robes flapping like a crow in low wind. The rest of the morning is quieter. People disperse. Work resumes. But the tone feels changed, like the village has drawn in a slow breath and is holding it waiting. You find yourself near the well again. The same one with the oily sheen and the suspicious bucket. A girl is dropping in pebbles. Each one plinks with a soft, echoing splash. She glances at you. They say if you throw one in and it doesn't make a sound, you'll die that night. You raise an eyebrow, and if it does, you'll probably die anyway. Just not today. She tosses another pebble. It splashes. She shrugs. Close enough. Historians still argue whether medieval villagers were deeply religious or deeply superstitious, but most agree. They didn't make a distinction. A saint could bless a field. A ghost could curse it. Owl might give visions. Or diarrhea. A rooster screams from somewhere nearby. You flinch. The girl doesn't even blink. You pass the church again later and notice something strange. Someone's carved a circle into the wooden frame near the door. A rough one freshly done. Inside the circle, a cross barely visible, a woman whispers as she walks past. It keeps things out. You want to ask what things, but you also don't want to know. That night, no feast. Just stew. No music. Just silence. Even the dogs seem subdued. You lie in your straw bed herb bundle under your head. You sniff it once. Still smells like mint and mystery. You drift off wondering if the voices in your dream tonight will be ones you recognize, or ones that recognize you. Morning returns, like an apology, soft-fogged and late. The light leaks through the barn slats reluctantly, like even the sun isn't ready to commit. You wake up with hay in your mouth, your back doing its best impression of a medieval wooden bench, and the very real realization that your boots, or what counts as boots now, are damp for reasons you do not wish to explore. Outside the village is unusually quiet. You stretch groaning like an old hinge and peek through the slats. People are gathering near the edge of the fields, not the usual slow shuffle of farmers with hoes and baskets. This is something different. There's tension in the air, tight as a bowstring coiled as a cat about to leap. You follow barefoot and blinking. The fog clings low, muting everything. It's the kind of weather that makes your thoughts feel like they've been wrapped in damp wool. At the edge of the field you see it. The plow, the oxen, the furrows cut into the wet earth like the score lines on an old man's face. And the villagers lined up barefoot, spaced evenly shoulders bare to the chill, chanting a prayer you don't recognize. No tools, just hands and dirt. The reeve notices you. It's soul-turning, he says. First plow of the holy year, done by flesh, not iron. If we do it wrong, the crops won't rise, and neither will the dead. You're too tired to question the logic, so you take your place in the line feet sinking into the wet loam and can wait. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Medieval agriculture was a mix of necessity, religion, and ritual. Plowing wasn't just work, it was spiritual. Crop rotation was understood, if imperfectly, and some fields were left fallow in sacred rhythm. The land wasn't just land, it was a living, temperamental thing. You dig your hands in. The mud is cold, clotted with root and worm. You heave, lift, turn. The motion is brutal. Backbreaking, hypnotic. Over and over, a silent conversation between body and earth. Beside you, a man mutters, "This is the year. We can feel it." You want to ask what that means, but you don't. Because somehow you can feel it too. A young girl runs up with a basket of crushed shells and dried herbs. She tosses them into the newly turned soil, whispering something under her breath. "Ward," someone says, "to keep the blight away." The sun rises a little higher. The fog pulls back like a curtain, revealing the field scarred now, but purposeful. A woman begins to sing. Not words, just a tone. The rest join in, and soon the field hums. Then a boy screams. Everyone stops. The sound came from the far side near the tree line. People turn stiffen. The reeve starts walking fast toward the source. You follow because curiosity is stronger than sense. You reach the boy. He's pale, muddy, shaking. "It was in the trees," he stammers, watching, white eyes. You stare into the forest. Nothing. Just shadows layered on shadows. But the silence now feels weighted. "Fox," someone offers weakly. "Not with white eyes," the boy insists. No one argues. And here's your quirky tidbit. In parts of medieval Europe, white-eyed animals were considered omens. Ghosts, demons, even cursed nobles. Some villages had entire protocols for what to do if one appeared. Most of them involved fire or running. The Reeve squints into the woods. "Keep to the village tonight," he says. "Double the watch." No one questions it. Work resumes, but slower now. You're reassigned to the granary, an aging wooden structure raised on stilts to keep out rats. It smells like old wheat, old wood, and old secrets. Your job? Sort through sacks of barley. Remove anything that moves. You do so with the grim detachment of someone who has accepted their new reality as a grain inspector with a trust issue. A rat skitters past your hand. You flinch. It flinches. You share a moment of mutual disrespect. At midday, you're offered a cup of something gray and thick. Grain mash, they say. Warms the gut. Or clears it. Depends on the moon. You take a cautious sip. It's both. Somehow, historians still debate how aware peasants were of nutrition. They knew what filled them, what made them sick, what helped them last through winter. Science came later, but knowledge. That lived in experience. The granary's upper level is cool and dry. You take a moment to rest. Feet dangling over the edge, watching the village below. Smoke curls. Children chase a dog. Someone singing a lullaby meant for corn stalks. And then a distant horn. Short, flat, wrong. People freeze. Heads turn. Another blast. Closer. It's the kind of sound that doesn't mean festival. It means hide. Someone shouts inside. Villagers scatter. You jump down from the granary and are pulled bodily into a cottage by a woman who smells like vinegar and onions. She slams the door, throws the bolt, and presses a finger to her lips. You listen. Footsteps, voices, or maybe just wind. No one speaks for 10 minutes. Then 20, then longer. Eventually, the all clear comes. A boy with soot on his face yells through the streets. False alarm. Just a traveler, one of ours. Relief. And something else. You step back into the daylight, eyes squinting. And there, standing in the village square, is a cloaked figure. Not the Reeve. Not the priest. Someone new. Someone who doesn't look surprised to see you. The traveler doesn't speak right away. He stands at the center of the village square like he owns the horizon cloak. Damp from the road, boots coated in a crust of red clay from somewhere far beyond this patch of churned mud and barley dreams. His face is mostly hidden, but you can see the edge of a graying beard and a pair of eyes that look like they've seen things no one should carry alone. Everyone watches him. No one moves. Even the dogs, usually so eager to announce their opinions, slink back to corners like children eavesdropping on something adult. He finally speaks, low, steady, with the kind of voice that pulls all the sound out of the room. Your fields are thin. Your forest moves. Your sky smells of rust. You've waited too long to ask. The Reeve steps forward, clearly unsure whether to bow, argue, or offer a stale turnip. We've not called for any seer, friend. The traveler tilts his head. Then someone whispered loudly. You blink. The village holds its breath. And just like that, the spell breaks. The tension thaws. Life resumes in stutters. Children shuffle forward. Dogs bark again. Someone very loudly drops a basket of firewood and swears creatively. But the traveler is still there, and people don't know what to do with him. You're close enough now to see more. His cloak is patched in places, but the fabric beneath is richly woven, possibly Eastern. A leather pouch hangs from his belt, engraved with symbols that look neither Christian nor particularly friendly. Someone offers him food, he takes it. Someone asks where he's come from. He doesn't answer. Instead, he finds a log near the fire pit and sits pulling out something wrapped in linen and twine. He unrolls it slowly, deliberately. Inside, a box. It's made of wood but finely carved with a metal inlay in the shape of a bird mid-flight. No hinges, no latch, no keyhole. Just a smooth cube with a lid that doesn't look like it should open, but clearly does. He sets it down, says nothing, and the villagers begin to whisper, "Is it cursed? Maybe it's a relic. Looks like something from the old kingdoms. Could be a puzzle box, like the monks used." Here's your mainstream historical fact. Travelers were rare, but not unknown. Merchants, monks, pilgrims, and wanderers occasionally passed through even the most isolated villages. And often they brought things, stories, tools, spices, or machines. No one understood, but everyone feared. One chronicle from 1273 describes a metal box that sang as a gift from a Venetian trader. The local lord had it burned. It screamed. You're staring at the box. You don't mean to be, but it pulls at you like gravity or déjà vu or a half-forgotten dream. Then the traveler lifts the lid. No key, no mechanism. It just opens inside, something that shouldn't be here. It's a lens, a simple glass circle set in metal, but it gleams in the firelight, like a thing that remembers the stars. The traveler holds it up, tilts it, lets the light pass through and project a small flicker against the side of the granary. A blurry image, like a shadow, pretending to be a bird. Gasps, not terror, not yet, but awe, real awe, like they've just seen lightning smile. He speaks again. This shows the invisible, reveals what your eyes have forgotten how to see. You step forward, and before you realize it, the lens is in your hand. It's heavier than expected, warm. You lift it to your eye, and the world changes. Not dramatically, not like stories promise, but slightly. The colors shift. The trees near the edge of the forest shimmer faintly. The chapel door glows a soft, sickly gold. And the girl who gave you the cabbage that first morning, she has no shadow. You lower the lens, blink, look again, still no shadow. You turn to the traveler. What is this? He just smiles. A reminder. And here comes your quirky tidbit. There were whispers in the 14th century, scattered references in monastery margins and village hearsay of objects that revealed lies or stones that unmasked fae folk. Most scholars dismiss these as allegory or paranoia. But then again, most scholars have never met the cabbage girl. You return the lens to the traveler, who wraps it back into linen like it's sacred or dangerous. The reeve clears his throat. You'll stay the night, of course. You've traveled far. The traveler nods but adds, I'll sleep near the fields. The dreams are clearer there. That night, around the fire, stories spiral like smoke. People speak of things they've almost seen. A woman who bled silver, a tree that sang in Latin, a boy who aged backward for a day, then righted himself by sunrise. The traveler listens, eyes half closed, like someone remembering how to forget. You sit near him, not speaking, just close enough to feel the edge of whatever he carries. And before bed, he offers you something, a small bundle of dried blue petals. Burn this if the forest calls you, he says. One, because it's better than answering. You sleep fitfully that night. The dreams come harder. The healer whispers in your ear. The priest's voice echoes in reverse. The lens glows in your hand, and somewhere beyond the tree line, something is watching, not moving, just waiting. You wake up just before dawn, heart racing. You're not sure why. There's no scream, no crash, no shadow standing over your straw mat. Just stillness, and that's what's wrong. The village is never silent. There's always a cough, a goat bleeding the wind, pushing smoke through creaking rafters. But now, nothing. You sit up slowly, the scratch of straw against your skin, grounding you in the moment. Outside the barn, the sky is a bruised gray. No birds, no bells, just fog, thick, heavy, clinging to everything like a second skin. You step outside. Your breath ghosts the air in front of you, and that's when you hear it. Splish, a single deliberate splash. From the well, you creep closer. No one's there, just the rope swaying gently, bucket spinning at the end. The sound of water sloshing as though someone pulled it up, then vanished. You stare down, too deep to see anything, too late to pretend you didn't hear it. You walk back into the village square, hoping for normalcy, but something's off. The door to the baker's house hangs open, no smoke from the chimney. The coop is open, chickens gone. You see the priest. He's standing perfectly still outside the chapel. Eyes closed, fingers twitching like he's counting something. Only he can feel. You approach cautiously. Is it the forest? You ask. He doesn't open his eyes. No, he murmurs. It's what the forest lets through. You wait. He opens his eyes. They look older than they did yesterday. It's the feast of St. Edwine today. He says suddenly, like, that explains anything. Do you know what that means? You shake your head. Neither do I, he says and walks away. Today is strange. The Reeve is organizing something. You can tell by the way he barks orders and points aggressively at tools. You're pulled into a group tasked with clearing brambles along the edge of the forest. Someone hands you a hook, someone else a torch. Stay in a line, the Reeve warns. No wandering. If you see white flowers, don't step on them. If you hear your name whispered, don't answer. You laugh a little. No one else does. Mainstream historical fact. Medieval villagers feared the woods not just because of wolves or bandits, but for reasons more spectral. The forest was the realm of spirits, lost things, and unblessed dead. Whole belief systems were built around not angering whatever lived in the shadows of the trees. You begin hacking away at thorny brush. It bites back branches, snapping brambles, scratching your arms like they're keeping score. The fog doesn't lift. The light feels old, like it's filtered through memory instead of sky. You glimpse the traveler, once sitting cross-legged on a rock near the woods, eyes closed, breathing slow. His hands are buried in the soil like he's listening to the ground itself. The girl with no shadow walks past you. She doesn't say anything, just stares too long. And then, very quietly, she smiles. You lose your appetite. Hours pass. You clear more brush. Your arms burn. Your fingers bleed. Someone cuts too close and gets whipped by a thorn. They swear so creatively you almost applaud. And then someone screams, real this time. You drop the hook and run toward the sound. A group of villagers is clustered around something near the tree line. It's a deer, or it was. Its eyes are open but milk white. No wounds, no blood. Just still, and beneath it arranged neatly, a ring of blue petals, like the ones the traveler gave you. The Reeve swears. The priest appears muttering prayers under his breath. The healer arrives, Lass says nothing, and begins to scoop the petals into a pouch. Who's doing? Someone whispers. Not ours, the healer says. Then everyone looks at you. Because you're holding the same petals in your pocket. Because you don't belong. And because no one else has dreams that move the well water. Here's your quirky tidbit. In some remote villages, when animals died without cause, it was seen as a sign, either a blessing or a warning. The difference often depended on whether it rained the next day. The Reeve turns to the traveler. This yours. The traveler finally stands. It's not mine, he says, but I'm the reason it came. That evening, the village gathers for a council, not something formal. Just huddled voices around the fire, each person trying to sound braver than the last. Someone wants to burn the forest. Someone else wants to bless it. One man suggests moving the village entirely. He's gently ignored. Historians still argue whether such decisions were democratic or just controlled by the loudest voice with the most goats. Tonight it's neither. It's fear making the rules. Later, as you return to your hay pile, the healer stops you. She places her hand over your chest. You carry too much, she says, and some of it doesn't belong to you. You ask what that means. She presses the pouch of blue petals into your hand again. You'll know when she says. You lie awake that night, the pouch clutched in your fist. Outside, the wind picks up, and just past the tree line, a pair of white eyes open. You don't wake up the next morning because you never truly slept. Not in the way that counts. You drifted, maybe floated between memories and murmurs, between the smell of crushed petals and the feeling that someone was whispering just outside your hearing. Your body rested, but your mind spent the night pacing, peering through every crack in the barn slats. When you rise, it's still dark. The kind of darkness that feels intentional, like the dawn has chosen not to arrive yet, as if it's waiting to see how things play out. The pouch of petals is still clenched in your hand. You sit up, breath frosting in the air, and listen. No chickens, no carts, no footsteps. You're not alone in the barn. But the others are still, not asleep, just still. You slip out quietly. The village is silent. Torches aren't lit. Smoke doesn't rise. Even the well's rope has stopped swaying. You walk slowly toward the forest. Because you know, somehow you're meant to, and you're not the only one. Figures are moving toward the same place. Not many. A handful. The priest, his robe dragging in the frost. The healer carrying a bundle of dried lavender and something wrapped in cloth. A young boy holding a sheep's skull like an offering. And the traveler, He waits at the edge of the tree's cloak, heavy with dew box in hand. You wonder if he ever truly left that spot. He speaks without preamble. There's something in tonight. A pull. You feel it. You nod. So do they. He gestures to the others. The veil's thin. He means between this world and whatever else there is. Mainstream historical fact. Medieval Europeans believed in liminal times, twilight crossroads, seasonal transitions when the boundaries between natural and supernatural blurred. It was when saints listened, spirits wandered, and unlucky villagers found themselves talking to owls that knew their names. You all step into the forest, not as intruders, as guests, or bait. You're not sure yet. The trees absorb you, like water into cloth. The light dims further until it's more memory than illumination. Moss glows faintly underfoot. The wind doesn't move the branches, but it moves around them. And then you hear it. Distant rhythmic, a thump, a hollow wet beat. Drums. No one carries drums. The healer stops walking. She reaches into her bundle and scatters dried lavender in a circle. Then murmurs words you don't know, but somehow understand. Protection. Passage. Permission. The priest lights a single candle from a flint spark. It burns blue, and the traveler opens the box again, this time not to reveal the lens, but something new. A scrap of parchment blackened around the edges with ink that shimmers like oil in moonlight. He hands it to the healer. She holds it like a verdict. Read it, he says. She does. The words sound wrong in your ears like a song sung backwards through water. And the forest answers. A creak, a shift, like a door being unlatched with invisible fingers. From behind one tree, a figure steps forward. It's not human. Not quite tall. Limbs too long. A face like carved wood with eyes that glow white, not with light, but absence. It doesn't walk. It leans forward, and the world leans with it. No one speaks. No one runs. The boy with the sheep's skull kneels trembling, but still. The creature tilts its head. And then, the girl with no shadow appears from behind you. She steps between the villagers and the being, and bows, deep, for Mal, like she's returning home. Here's your quirky tidbit. In some folk traditions, children born under eclipses were said to walk between worlds. Not cursed, not blessed, just different, seen from both sides, never fully here. The creature tilts its head in return and speaks. It's not words, it's sensation, cold pressed against the bones of your thoughts. Regret, hunger, agreement. Then one by one it touches each person's forehead with a hand that doesn't quite exist. When it reaches you, it pauses. Its fingers graze your skin, and you see a flash of fields empty, a sky of ash, a village burned, and yourself standing alone, holding the same pouch of petals. You gasp, and it's gone. The creature steps back. The girl follows it. They fade together into the fog. No one stops them. The priest collapses to his knees, whispering the names of saints, long forgotten. The healer weeps quietly. The traveler closes the box, and then for the first time in what feels like forever, a rooster crows. The sky lightens. You're walking back through the trees, stunned barefoot, breathing again. Someone says we've been seen. Another replies, we've been spared. Historians still argue whether such forest rites were pagan remnants or collective dreams, but they miss the point. The villagers never stopped believing not in gods or ghosts, but in the idea that some things walk beside you, unseen, until you remember to look. That night, no one speaks of it. No one names what happened. But every door has fresh chalk marks. Every threshold, new branches laid in careful patterns. And every shadow, carefully watched. You wake to birdsong. Real ordinary, cheery birdsong. It takes you a moment to believe it. You sit up squinting into the morning light, expecting the sky to be black again, the air thick, the trees watching. But no sunlight streams in warm and golden through the barn slats, and the air smells like fresh bread and wood smoke. You're confused. You're also sore, gritty-eyed, and absolutely not ready for whatever emotional whiplash this day plans to deliver. Outside, the village is humming. The normal kind of humming. Someone is chopping wood. Someone else is laughing. A pig squeals in what sounds like protest, but might just be breakfast. The world has snapped back into place like a dislocated joint, except not quite. Everyone's acting normal, but too normal. Movements are too measured, smiles too tight, laughter too rehearsed. You spot the healer laying dried flowers across her doorstep in a silent pattern. The priest is hanging strips of cloth and the tree's ribbons for blessings or warnings, or both. You pass the traveler. He's packing, not just supplies, everything. He's folded his cloak, strapped the box to his back, wrapped the lens and scrolls. He nods once when you approach. This village no longer needs me. Are they safe now? You ask. He doesn't answer. Just glances toward the woods. You want to argue, demand an answer, ask about the girl, but you don't. Because deep down, you already know. Safety here isn't a destination. It's a negotiation, one that never ends. You help him tighten the rope across his satchel. He clasps your hand once hard. If it whispers again, he says quietly, burn the petals, or don't. That choice must be yours. He turns and walks away, not down the main road, into the forest. He never looks back. Mainstream historical fact. Many wandering figures, friars, mystics, healers pass through medieval villages, sometimes staying for a night, sometimes longer. They were feared, trusted, worshipped, or exiled, depending on what they left behind, or what they took with them. You walk back to the village square. It's busier now. The reeve is back to barking about fence repairs. The baker is yelling at a boy for stealing an onion. A woman shakes a rug with such fury, you suspect it wronged her in a past life. But you catch glances. They linger on you a beat too long, as if you're no longer just new one. You're the one who saw. That afternoon, you're handed a job. A real one. Not punishment, not pity. Roof thatching. You climb onto a small cottage with 3 others, each of you holding bundles of straw working in rhythm. You learn the pattern: quickly twist, lay pin with hazel rods. Over and over until the roof gleams gold in the sun. Someone offers you bread. Fresh, still warm, rubbed with garlic. You take it without flinching. They ask casually, you gonna stay? The question hangs there. You don't answer. Not yet. Later, you carry a basket to the granary. Inside, dried peas, garlic bulbs, 2 small wedges of hard cheese. You arrange them neatly. You find comfort in order now. Outside the granary, the cabbage girl, no. The girl with no shadow, though no one else seems to remember that part, sits with her legs in the sun, humming a tune you vaguely recognize from the fire circle days ago. She looks up. You saw it too, didn't you? You nod. I used to be afraid, she says. But it's not fear. It's just knowing. You want to ask what she is, but instead you say, will you stay? She smiles. Longer than him, shorter than most. And just like that, you accept that answer. Here's your quirky tidbit. In some villages, when someone didn't age, or healed too fast, or dreamt things before they happened, it wasn't seen as supernatural. It was seen as necessary. The village needs its oddness. Ikat Bizan, one 14th century priest wrote in a margin note, to balance its sins. You spend the evening helping string onions to dry. You laugh when one rolls off the table and 2 kids chase it like it's a prized jewel. You share a cup of weak ale with the smith's apprentice. He says, you've got field hands now. Means you belong. You don't argue. That night, lying in your corner of the barn, wrapped in your blanket, your actual blanket now. Since someone mended the tear, you feel it. You're not a guest anymore. The trees don't lean as close. The well water is still. And the girl's shadow, you swear you see it tonight? Small, dim. But there, you close your eyes, the pouch of petals still tied at your belt. Not burned, not buried. Just there, waiting. You wake to rain. Not a storm, just a soft, steady drizzle tapping the barn's roof like fingertips on a drum. The kind of rain that doesn't stop the day, just slows it. Reminds you that the world breathes, even when you're not watching. You stretch slowly, every muscle protesting. But it's a familiar ache now, not a foreign one. You've learned to live in this body, the version of you that belongs to dirt and straw and bruise-colored sky. Outside the village glistens. Children chase chickens with little concern for mud. The priest is patching the chapel's door frame with strips of cloth and murmuring about rot. The reeve as ever is shouting at someone for doing something like a bloody Norman. No one takes it personally. You're sent to help carry grain sacks from the granary. The weight isn't as unbearable as it was the first time. Your hands grip more confidently now. You know where the floor creaks, where the sacks like to split, where the rats like to test your patience. When you finish the baker hands you a wedge of pie, actual pie. Not entirely sure what's in it, but it's hot spiced and not moving, so you count that as a win. The girl with no shadow, whose shadow has maybe almost returned, sits beside you under the eaves. She doesn't speak for a long time, just eats her own pie in companionable silence. Then she says, "They don't remember it." You glance at her. The thing in the forest, the petals, the deer, the way the sky watched. They know something happened, but they've already wrapped it in different memories. You nod slowly, "But we remember." She smiles faint and tired. "That's why we're still here." You ask her what will happen next. She doesn't answer. She just looks up at the sky and lets the rain fall on her face like a prayer. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Stories didn't just pass down through ink in medieval times, they passed through people. Oral tradition kept memories alive, reworded, reshaped, recast, with new names. You weren't just telling history, you were holding it. Later that day, you help a child catch a runaway goat. You fail, but they laugh anyway. The goat wins. That seems to be tradition. You mend a fence. You skin your knuckles. You string more onion. You fix a door hinge. Each of these things feels like writing your name into the village stroke by stroke. As the sun sets behind thick clouds, golden light still finds a way to brush over the rooftops, glint off puddles, and make the drying herbs dance a little in the wind. The healer hands you a bundle. "For when you leave," she says. You blink. "You think I will?" "Everyone does eventually," she replies. "The village only borrows people." She pauses, but it keeps the pieces it likes. You tuck the bundle into your cloak. The priest invites you to the chapel that night. Not for confession, but for warmth. He doesn't say much, just sits beside you while the candle crackles and the rain hums against the roof. You sit in silence, listening to the breath of old wood and worn stone. "You've done well," he says eventually. You think he means more than just today. Before bed, you walk the perimeter of the village once. No reason. Just something you feel compelled to do. Everything is still. The trees no longer lean too close. The well rope doesn't sway. You look at your pouch of petals, still whole, still unburned. But something in you has already been used. You lie down for the last time on your familiar straw mat. Not because you plan to leave tomorrow, but because you know now that time moves differently here. You won't choose when you go. The village will, and when you do leave, a piece of you will stay scratched into the wood of a barn beam, pressed into the dirt beneath the well, folded into the scent of stew, thickened by time. And now, wind down 300 words. The rain softens into a mist. The world blurs at the edges, gentle, forgiving. You breathe slowly, the air cool and damp, the blanket wrapped around your shoulders, heavier than usual, in the best way. Your hands still smell faintly of hay and ash, and something herbal like lavender and mint and wood smoke. The scent of having lived a little. Somewhere outside an owl calls. A dog barks once, then nothing. The world exhales. You think of the lens the traveler carried, of the deer with no wounds, of the girl with the flickering shadow and the strange grace of someone only half human, of the things we notice only when we stop trying to name them. And slowly, the memories of the mud, the firelight, the taste of barley stew, the weight of tools in your hand settle in your mind, not as fear, but as softness, as grounding, as a whispered truth that you were there, that you belonged. You let your eyes close, let the rain fall, let the village fade, not vanish, just fade into somewhere deep and safe and tucked beneath your ribs. You are tired, but you are not alone. Not now, not ever. End of script. Sweet dreams.